Hello buns and welcome back to Cinnabon Sundays, our weekly video series where we talk about all things bunny. I'm Morgan, Cinnabon's bun mom, and today I am going to teach you how to hold and touch and pick up a rabbit that does not like to be touched or picked up or held. I know I'm biased here, but rabbits are probably the cutest animal on the planet and they are so soft. It's impossible to think about owning a rabbit and not cuddling them and snuggling them all of the time. But I suppose their one flaw is that they typically do not like to be held. Now you're always going to come across one of those rabbits that is quite snuggly and does not mind being held, but for the most part, rabbits, being prey animals, are really afraid of having their feet lifted off the ground. It's an instinct for them that they do not feel safe when their feet are lifted up, so even if they trust you and feel safe with you, a lot of times picking them up is going to terrify them. You guys know I have a fantastic bond with Cinnabon. She is 4 years old. I've had her entire life, and she still absolutely despises when I pick her up, so I really try not to do that. But the problem is, you're gonna have to pick your rabbit up. And so one of the number one questions I get is, how do you hold your rabbit when your rabbit doesn't like to be held? So today what we're gonna talk about is tips on holding your rabbit, how to properly do so that you know that they're safe and that they feel secure. But then also I'm gonna give you tips on how to actually pick them up and gain that trust in the first place. Okay, so I am here with Cinnabon and I'm going to show you how to properly pick up and hold your rabbit. So first off, the best way to pick up your rabbit is you always want to be supporting the bottom of your rabbit. They're a little bottom heavy, and you also want to have a hand on their chest. You never ever want to flip your rabbit upside down, so you want to keep them upright, supporting them from the bottom and up here. When you go to pick up your rabbit, you'll scoop from underneath and then grab with your hand like so. See, my hand is underneath her little booty here. And then for Cinnabon, she's a Holland Lop, she's about 4 pounds. I like to actually twist her around so that she's in my arm. I have my arm hooked underneath her butt and another hand here supporting her like this. And I find that this way I can hold her really nice and closely to my chest. But if you have a larger rabbit, you can hold them like this with one hand underneath their butt, one hand here, or even hold them like I sometimes will, where I'm supporting her little booty and she's sitting in my hand. Again, you never want your rabbit to be upside down. That can actually lead to trancing, which is where your rabbit is almost like paralyzed for a moment when they're flipped all the way back. You want your rabbit to be upright and you want them to feel secure and safe against your arms. Especially if you have a squirmy bunny, you want to make sure that you have both arms on your rabbit so they're nice and safe against your chest and they're not going to fall. So now that you know how to securely hold your rabbit, let's talk about how you can actually pick them up if they're afraid of you. My very first tip at picking up your rabbit is to not pick up your rabbit. Hear me out. Hear me out. Unless you need to lift your rabbit, let them keep their feet on the ground. The more times you pick your rabbit up against their will, the more they're just going to resent you and not trust you. So my very first tip is do not force it. If your rabbit does not want to be held, don't hold them unless you have to. That way they're not going to associate your presence with being picked up. It automatically creates trust between you and your rabbit so that you can reach for your rabbit without them being terrified, because they know if you're reaching for them, you're most likely going to pet them or give them a treat and not pick them up. Which leads me into my next tip, is to get them used to your hands. So these suckers right here, these claws, and especially if you're like me, I actually have claws, they can be really terrifying to your rabbit because they know if you're reaching at them, you're most likely going to pick them up. So what I really recommend doing is getting your rabbit used to being around your hands, being used to being touched, so that when you are reaching for them, they don't automatically run away from you. The best way to do that is through their stomach. Hand feeding. Any opportunity that you can give them forage out of your hand, a treat out of your hand, their pellets out of your hand, anytime that you can give them food out of your hand, you're showing them that your hands are actually a good thing. You can start very small and just reach your hand really, really far out so that they can just grab out of your hand, but they're not too close to you. And the more they begin to trust you, you can bring your hand closer and closer, which will then lead into my next thing, which is lap feeding. You don't just want your rabbit used to your hands, you want your rabbit used to being really close to you. So once you start developing that trust with your rabbit, you can lead your rabbit around to your leg to have them hop up into your lap and eat snacks from there. So now that you've created that bond with your rabbit and they feel more comfortable with you being near them and touching them, let's talk a little bit about ways that you can pick them up without it being a huge ordeal. My number one tip at picking up your rabbit is to do it when they're taking a nap. Rabbits are crepuscular, which means that they spend a lot of their afternoons snoozing, and typically that's when I try to pick Cinnabon up to take her to the vet or to groom her. When your rabbit is napping, they're not paying attention. You can scoop them up really quickly before they even really notice what's happening, and it's definitely the easiest, and it prevents the whole you versus rabbit chasing situation. But if you are in a situation where your rabbit is awake, it's really tough to pick your rabbit up once they start running, because let me just tell you, you're never going to outrun a rabbit. What I typically do in a scenario like this is try to lead Cinnabon into a smaller area. I'll close the bunny room door. I'll maybe bring her into the bathroom where it's smaller, so it's just a lot easier to pick your rabbit up and there's less places for them to run and hide. You really don't want to just chase your rabbit around and terrify them, because that is just going to make their prey instinct go off even more. And then of course, every single time you put your rabbit back on the ground, offer them a treat. This way they know that if they are being lifted, there is a reward at the end of the tunnel, so it makes it less scary for them. And buns, those are my tips for how to handle a rabbit that does not like to be handled. And I feel like I can speak from great experience because Cinnabon absolutely hates it. So I hope that these tips help you bond with your rabbit and maybe help make lifting your rabbit and picking your rabbit up a little less stressful. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you on our next one. Bye, buns!